Welcome back to the South Stands, a Buckeye football podcast by Ohio State fans for Ohio State fans from the West Coast. I'm your host, Zach Moore. Today is Thursday, November 9th, 2023, and I'm very happy to be joined once again by fellow South Stands contributor Chad Plummer from Cleveland. CP, what's the word from the 216?
What up? The hostess with the mostest, Zach. What's up, bro? All good here in Cleveland, man. Just trying to get acclimated to, like, fucking moving, dude. I think we moved huh? On Thursday and Friday, and it is never again. I will never. I mean, seriously, we'll move again, but like there will be like just be a tag sale. Tag, like what gets bought, what doesn't get bought, then it gets donated. The only thing that's going is me and the dog, and maybe like a few things from the wardrobe, but that's it, man.
Oh man!
Other than that, man, life is good, man. I'm like, I'm excited about like this college football and everything, man. It's fall weather, like on the cusp of going down to the game on Saturday night, so we'll see.
Oh wow, you think you might go, huh?
Well, yeah, but see, like here's my dilemma. I mean, so Tansy's coming in, Gallagher's coming in, Barnes obviously, but the last time I was in the shoe was with PVH, who unfortunately is not with us tonight. He's like probably down.
Somewhere lost on the strip in Vegas.
Yeah. But the last time I was in the shoe was Oregon, as you know, years ago that we lost.
Right.
And it's like it is very tough for me to like get my mind straight on like, okay, so should I go? Like, I mean, So
are you afraid you'll jinx them?
I'll probably end up not going.
Is that the fear? You're afraid you'll jinx them for being in the stadium?
Well, you know what? See, I don't. You know what? Like. You know how I am. I'm like I roll like some things get in my brain, like, and then I get obsessed with it and this and that, and like it's like a teeter totter. Like let me off this ride. But yeah, that's the last thing. The last thing I remember is going into the second half of that Oregon Ohio State game. I go, Paige, I want to leave. I was like, I was smoking, because you can't smoke in the shoe any longer. I was out there smoking a cigarette and like this night. I'm like, I want to leave, and he goes, just please come in for the first drive of the second half. And if you remember,
I do.
They peeled off and ran that one right up the gut for a touchdown for 7 points. And I look at it, I'm like, you motherfucker. So I haven't been since, and it's just like it just sticks in my mind.
Yeah, well, at some point you got to go and cleanse the palate, man. Down. Yeah, you got to go cleanse the palates at some point.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I've been to an away game, but I haven't been to the shoe sun.
Okay.
But anyways.
All right.
I feel good about this team. I like where we are, who we are.
Me too. I'm feeling good. My favorite time of the year as well, the fall. College football season is heading toward its climax. I mean, it's a great time to be alive, CP.
Oh.
So we are here to preview.
Kidding,
we are here to preview number 1 Ohio State's primetime matchup with unranked Michigan State this coming Saturday. We also cannot avoid talking about that team up north, number 3 Michigan, because for one, they have a huge game at noon Eastern on Saturday in Happy Valley with number 10 Penn State. There is also the small matter of a certain sign-stealing scandal happening in Ann Arbor that we also have to talk about.
Conspiracies.
Now, the latest on that is Michigan received a notice of allegations and potential penalties from Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti earlier this week. Michigan has since responded with a 10-page letter, which the Big Ten is now reviewing. The Big Ten received a second letter from Jim Harbaugh's attorney, Tom Mars. Now, ESPN's Pete Thamel tweeted this morning, quote, the Big Ten is reviewing the lengthy written responses from both Michigan and Jim Harbaugh. There's no indication of any timetable on a decision on potential Big Ten discipline in the case of Michigan's alleged illegal signal stealing, end quote. So, CP, while we await a ruling from the Big Ten on Michigan, I say we try to keep the discussion today to the action on the field. And, of course, if there are any new developments on that front while we're recording, we can certainly address them. So
100%. I would just like to say one quick thing that, like,
sure.
It's just like the media. It's like it's the times that we live in, but like so just fucking hilarious that it comes out that like Ryan Day's brothers are responsible for the
there's so much misinformation out there. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Well, and I heard that Day was receiving death threats. Yeah, and I heard Day was.
I know it's so crazy, man. Out of bounds shit. It's ridiculous.
A lot of misinformation out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we look at Ohio State, Michigan State, and Michigan Penn State, CP, let's have a quick look back at Ohio State's 35-16 win over Rutgers last Saturday afternoon. Now, I thought PVH had a pretty good handle on that game in our preview pod. He had it pegged as a potential letdown game for the Buckeyes, and I think for the better part of 3.5 quarters, he was right. But CP, I have two questions for you. First, do you want to take your Trey Henderson victory lap now or later? And what else did you see from that performance against Rutgers that stood out?
You know what? I'm not going to take a victory lap until we're in the promised land.
All right.
And then I'm going to take 2 victory laps, one with Trey and one with Jimmy Knowles. But
all right.
Neither here. We're going to wait for that. But obviously, doesn't it seem to be along with poor defense and this and that over long standing over the last 2 to 3 years. We're always bitching about this and that, big broken up plays. But, one thing that is still sticking is that Ohio State is we always are slow to start.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's all right, what's going on here, guys? Mm-hmm. And you know what? It's and I'm so and I have to stay off the threads, but not all this stuff because everybody's wanting, Dave's got to get fired. Kyle McCord's the worst quarterback.
I know. It's ridiculous.
Whomever. It's so insane, and I just it just makes me I get so I get pissed off. I'm you know what, you fucking idiot. But it's all good. Yeah, it's just slow developing. I feel like
slow starts.
That's been kind of the theme of it.
Yeah.
But look at what we did in the second half. I mean, it's all right. And Page's point, his preview, you mentioned, yeah, a little bit of a letdown game. But we won the game and we looked good in the second half. Now it's a slow start and a big game. We Georgia. I mean, it's all gonna happen, but. It is what it is. You make adjustments. I feel like the adjustments at halftime, on both sides of the ball, has been better than it has been the last, since last season. Obviously, that's very promising.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, is it frustrating sometimes? McCord is either anybody that's saying McCord is just garbage and trash. You know what? Then you know what? You ought to just, just drink, have a cup of Clorox and just shut the fuck up. Get out of here, all right? Because the kid can throw some. He's this is literally his first year on stage. Yeah, he's been in the program for 2 years, but I mean, come on, he's running. This is his team. The kid can throw some dimes, man.
I agree.
I mean, I'm not worried about Kyle McCord whatsoever.
Yeah, he set a school record for consecutive completions between the Wisconsin and Rutgers game. He completed his last 7 passes against Wisconsin and his first 11 against Rutgers. He actually got off to a decent start in this game. But that was a school record for consecutive completions, and he threw 3 touchdown passes in this game. I'm with you.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I know he had a bad second quarter. I'm not going to deny that. But you know what the catalyst was for that bad second quarter? What I really think I think the outcome would have been much different had G. Scott not dropped that pass over the middle on 3rd down in the second quarter. He was wide open. That play was going to go for big yardage into plus territory, deep into Rutgers territory. Instead, Scott drops the ball, and then on the very next play is the failed fake punt attempt that set Rutgers up at the Ohio State 30, and bam, Rutgers is in business. So what should have been a first down in plus territory turned out to be a first down going the other way in plus territory for Rutgers. So I kind of thought that was the catalyst for that bad second quarter for McCord. And then on Ohio State's very next possession, McCord throws the INT. But to your point, he shakes it off, and he played much better in the second half. I don't know what Ohio State fans want, and I issued a big defense of McCord in the postgame pod on Sunday. But he's having a much more normal. I think he's just having a much more normal first year. As a starter, right? We got spoiled by C.J. Stroud and Justin Fields, but he's just having to take his normal bumps and his normal lumps. But he's still second in the Big Ten in passing, right?
Right, and then you have running back we like injuries and plagued with injuries, like
Yeah.
leading off, like so. There's a lot like that's more
Emeka
added
Egbuka
pressure
missed
to
a bunch
the
of
kid.
time.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, and Buka's out. Like, I mean, come on, man. Like,
Yeah.
I think people just blow my mind, and it's
Yeah.
like it's just like everybody else. You try to ignore, like you're driving like the people that are in the left lane, and like on the freeway, and like they're just fucking up everything that goes in normal in society. They're driving 65 when everybody else is driving 80. You know what I mean? Like those assholes. But it's all good. Like, so
Yeah.
I'm glad you took McCord's like side there. Like, that was good to hear.
I'm not sure how many people were listening, but I just feel like I feel like we're bordering on hypercriticism of McCord, and
I know.
Right? Yeah.
And half these people that make all these comments about Ohio State, they really don't even know shit. You know what I mean? And that's not to like, hey, listen, I love all the Ohio State fans. I love all of us. You know what I mean? But like, listen, you just like need to like, like take a deep breath sometimes and like just like stop regurgitating like your nonsense, okay? Like and like just relax.
I agree. I think McCord's going to be fine. I think he's going to get better. It was inevitable. The next man up after C.J. Stroud was going to suffer by comparison, and that's what's I think in a large degree is what's happening right now.
Right, like the guy who's like one of the, like they're saying like maybe like one of the best rookies of quarterbacks of drafts of all time.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, I think Stroud's the best quarterback to ever play at Ohio State. Players like him don't grow on trees, and McCord's going to be just fine. And he's plenty good enough for Ohio State to win a national championship and reach all their goals.
Oh, yeah. He is 100%. Imagine get the kid through this year. He's got game, man. That's all I can say.
I mean, those 3 touchdown passes were about as precise as you could make them. And I know they were shorter throws, but they were still, surgical.
But that Geese Scott, like the one that he dropped, like that one in the end zone, that was a hell of a catch.
You can't throw a better ball than that.
You couldn't play. You couldn't just place the ball just dropping right there. That was just beautiful.
Even the 2 throws to Harrison were great throws. Were only where Harrison could catch him. So. Yeah. Now, I'm going to focus on the positives from that performance. A lot of Ohio State fans shit on it because it was Rutgers, but that's actually a much, much improved Rutgers program from the Rutgers that we've known and loved since they joined the Big Ten.
Oh,
right? I mean, Trey Henderson.
Giano, he gets geeked up and amped up a little bit more for Ohio State too. He's a good coach, man. He's not an idiot. His time at Ohio State was
absolutely
what yada yada. Who knows, right? So, but the guy's he's an intelligent coach. He knows what's up, man.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, look, Trey Henderson went over 200 yards of total offense for the second week in a row. When he was playing like that, he absolutely changes the calculus for the Ohio State offense. You even had the playoff committee chair on Tuesday mentioning Henderson's return to the lineup as something the committee took note of, and that likely weighed into the decision to keep the Buckeyes at number 1 in the rankings. I also, CP, liked what I saw in short yardage situations and red zone situations for the Buckeyes. I mean, those have both been issues for Ohio State most of the season, but against Rutgers, I'm pretty sure they converted all of their 3rd and short and 4th and short opportunities, and they were 4 of 4 with 4 touchdowns in the red zone against a pretty salty Rutgers defense. And then finally, as it's been all year, the Buckeye defense was excellent in the red zone. Rutgers had 6 trips into the red zone. The Buckeyes held them to 1 touchdown, 3 field goals, a pick 6, and a turnover on down. So I love what I saw out of Ohio State on both sides of the ball in the red zone.
Right.
Anything else you want to say about that game?
No, but what you said that right there, were there a couple, a handful of head scratcher plays what the fuck on defense? But what you just said right there, I'm good. Whatever.
Yeah.
We're not giving up 14 points long 50-yard pass play, a run play, whatever. Yeah, there's always going to be I don't care who you are. You're going to have a couple of those scratch the head plays. Where was it? Where were they? What the fuck happened here?
Well, the other team's not
red zone was beautiful. I mean, Jermaine Matthews, dude, that kid steps up, man. Come on, my kid, hey, bring it on. I'm ready to go.
Well, and I think that's also what made the defensive performance all the more impressive was they were down 2 starters to begin the game. with no Denzel Burke
Right.
and no Lathan Ransom, and then you lose Josh Proctor, who was balling out. Josh Proctor was well on his way, I think, to defensive MVP. He has to leave the field, I think, with a concussion on the play on the pick six by Jordan Hancock. So you're shorthanded. You had to play the second half of that game with two true freshmen, Malik Hartford and Jermaine Matthews in the secondary. Yeah. So, look, it was our second road game in a row. That was our fifth road win so far this season. I mean, think about that, CP. We are well into November. Ohio State has only played 4 games in the Horseshoe. They have 5 road wins under their belt. That was a quality Big Ten opponent, and they ended up covering, too. That's the other thing. So, after thinking about it, I came away feeling pretty good about that win.
I did, too, man. I mean... And that's why, like I mentioned it earlier, I need to just stay off everything, social media, this and that, because people just I get hey, like I don't want to let the sun's out, I'm above ground, like I don't want to deal with any of you people, I don't, love you, but hey.
Yeah, Buckeye fans.
Beat it.
Yeah, what do you want? Yeah. What do you want? You're 9-0. You're number 1 in the country.
Right. I mean,
your goals are all in front of you. You're getting your playmakers back healthy. Trey Henderson, Emeka Egbuka. You have every reason to feel optimistic about your immediate future here. That defense, those playmakers on offense, give Ohio State a chance against anybody in the country.
Right. Exactly. And as you know, I'm always I used to be I don't know that I'm how I turned 54 in August, but I don't know that I'm growing up. I feel like I've turned a corner in many aspects of my life. But, I've been known for being total, just down, Debbie Downer, what the fuck, this, that, blah, blah. But now I'm you know what? I'll take the win if there's I find the bright spots, and then we'll move on. And a perfect example is last season. Who thought, who gave it one iota of thought, except for maybe us, that we could play with Georgia. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's so it's hey, get us the win, get us out, and let's move on. We'll evaluate after next Saturday.
Yeah, and listen, I have no problem pointing things out that need to be improved when there is when it's evident. But I'm sorry, there was a lot to like about that win, and idle criticism I just don't have any time for. And some Ohio State fans just need to turn that frown upside down. We're sitting pretty. We're sitting pretty right now.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly, dude. Exactly.
Let's turn our attention to this coming Saturday. The unranked Michigan State Spartans visit the Horseshoe to take on the number 1 ranked Buckeyes. The game is a 7:30 p.m. Eastern kick on NBC. The line is Ohio State minus 31.5. The over-under is 47.5. Now, Ohio State leads the all-time series 36-14. That includes a 49-20 Ohio State win in East Lansing last season. It's been a rough year for the Spartans, CP. I mean, during the offseason, they lost both their starting quarterback, Peyton Thorne, and star receiver, Keon Coleman, who's having a huge year with Florida State right now. They lost both those players to the transfer portal. Then in late September, after only 4 games, head coach Mel Tucker was fired for cause after a sexual misconduct complaint. Harlan Barnett was elevated from assistant coach to interim head coach. Barnett leads the Spartans into this game at 3-6, but they are coming off a 20-7 win over Nebraska last Saturday, which snapped a 6-game losing streak for the Spartans. So why don't we do this, CP?
Matt Rule, he's what's going on with that dude?
He's having his ups and downs there. He's
questioning my decisions. But I think he'll be fine now.
Yeah. He's going to need a couple years to turn things around there, I would think.
Michigan State, 31.5-point dogs, dude. I mean, that's crazy.
Yep. So why don't we do this? Let's start by having a look at the Buckeye offense against the Michigan State defense. I'm going to share a few stats here, CP, before I turn it over to you. I want to get your view of how you see the Buckeye offense against the Michigan State defense. Here we go. Now, Sparty comes into this game ranked 47th in total defense, not up to their usual standard, but still above average as a defense at 47th. They're 50th in defensive yards per play. They're 44th in rush defense. They allow about 129 yards per game rushing. They're 57th in pass defense, allowing 222 yards per game, pardon me. And they're 74th in scoring defense, allowing almost 27 points per game. So, not up to the Mark D'Antonio standard that we remember from his time there. But I wouldn't necessarily say, that it's terrible either. Now, Michigan State is actually pretty good at getting after the quarterback. They're tied for 24th nationally in sacks. They have 25 sacks on the year, and they're 38th nationally in tackles for loss. They average about 6.5 tackles for loss per game. They have a good player in defensive tackles, Simeon Barrow Jr. He's a player to watch out for. He's second on the team in quarterback pressures, and he comes into this game with a pretty solid PFF grade of 74.5. Another player to watch is linebacker Cal Halliday. He's a good, solid linebacker for the Spartans. He leads them in tackles with 65. Finally, linebacker Aaron Brule is another player to watch. He leads the Spartans in sacks with 4. CP, I'm going to kick this over to you. Give me a few thoughts about this Ohio State offense against the Michigan State defense.
Well, first thing I want to say, with those sweet-ass unis they're busting out today.
Oh, yeah, the grays. Yeah, those look awesome.
Come on.
Yeah.
Those are sweet.
I approve.
Yeah. You know what? I feel like this game, and this is going straight out to Mikey Corcoran. My concern-o-meter is about, we'll get to that earlier, but I'm just I'm not worried about this game. I think we roll. I think our offense comes out. We look good. There's going to be a lot of recruits in there. Under the lights, those uniforms. And I'm excited. You know what I'm excited about? And I use the word excited a lot. I feel
yes, you do.
Excited. Yes, I do. I'm excited. But you know what? Trey coming out of the backfield.
Yeah.
That element to that offense.
Hallelujah.
In the passing game is it's a whole nother element.
I agree.
Because you can double team Marvin Harrison. You can whatever with Mbuka, I mean, there's other weapons on that field, and then you got him running out into the a prayer there and just a little pass and let him. Oh, it's
yeah,
beautiful.
Man.
It's a beautiful thing.
His last 2 games, 9 receptions for 125 yards receiving for Trey. I love that. I was shouting into the wind last year about getting him the ball more out in space, as a pass catcher.
Yeah,
so I love what I'm seeing
there. You were a very
there.
big proponent of that.
Yeah,
and it's great, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to give RD some what up props. Hey, if he wasn't ready, if he's injured, he's a little nimble, whatever we all bitch about, his taking a hit, go down, this and that. But I think it was such a good decision by our staff to keep him out until absolutely nothing, until he was 100% healthy to where you go out and compete, run, and look what it's done. It's like a beautiful flower opening. Oh, it's oh man, all praise to Jesus, Trey.
Yeah, I want to see a 4-quarter performance from the offense in this game. We touched on this just a couple of minutes ago. Let's see if Kyle McCord can avoid another first half malaise. Right now, last week, as we mentioned, McCord got off to a nice start. He completed his first 11 passes, but he really struggled in the second quarter. Now, I love how well McCord has played in the second half this year, but I want to see more consistency from him and the offense as a whole over 4 quarters. And you just touched on it with Trey. I want to see the continued evolution of the running game with Henderson. The Buckeyes showed significant improvement both in short yardage and in the red zone last week, as we discussed, and that was against a top 10 Rutgers defense. Now, Henderson had a lot to do with that, and I'd love to see the Buckeyes build on that performance in this game. But I also think Tony Alford needs to make sure Henderson doesn't get a single carry more than is necessary in this game, right? Let him do his work,
100%.
Get him out of the game healthy. That's absolutely paramount. I'm also looking for Emeka Egbuka to play well in this game. He looked a little rusty last week against Rutgers, and that's understandable. He has this week and next, right? He has this week and next to knock the rust off before the trip to Ann Arbor. So that's what I'm going to be looking for when Ohio State has the ball against the Michigan State defense. CP, I'm going to kick this back to you. Any other thoughts?
He'd put him in the game.
Yeah,
I thought they were going to keep him out again, but he was very you don't want. I got to this is my last rodeo with the Buckeye.
Probably
I play every minute that I can.
Yeah,
but you're right. He did look a little rusty. He had a couple grabs, but
yeah.
I just want him to be 100% healthy. I'll tell you what, the blocking by the receivers has been. It's Julian Fleming has last week threw some sweet ass block, and I know that's a big thing that our offense, you better be able to block. I mean, being a receiver, Ohio State, it's a glory. escalator position. You're in the VIP club, this and that, but like you better be able to block.
Yeah.
And none of those guys are afraid to do it, and I love that, man. I think you get in and grind, so. And Stover he's got stepped up, man. He was like a big time recruit too. Like, Stover's not out. Like he's
injured. Yeah.
Up.
Yeah. Well, he sat out last week. He sat out last week. He's injured. He's got a brace on his knee, I think, and was not targeted against Wisconsin. So I think they need to be careful with Stover. Don't rush him back. You're not going to need him for this game. Right. He needs more time. Right. Rest him. Get him ready for Michigan.
Comes back until like the end of November. Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, let's flip it around and have a look at the Ohio State defense against the Spartans offense. Now, CB, this is where it starts to look pretty ugly for Michigan State. And they come into this game ranked 113th in total offense, averaging only 319 yards per game. They're 112th in offensive yards per play at 4.99. They're 74th in scoring offense at 26.5 per game. 26.5 points, that is, per game. They're 119th in rushing offense, averaging only 103 yards per game, and they're 83rd in passing offense. The Spartans are led by redshirt freshman quarterback Caton Hauser. Hauser replaced Noah Kim as the starter last month in 4 starts, plus a little mop-up duty before he won the starting job. Hauser's completing 59% of his passes. He only has 3 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. Senior receiver Montori Foster is the Spartans' leader in receptions with 33 and receiving yards with 436. Foster only has 2 touchdown receptions.
436 yards.
Yeah, and 2 touchdown receptions. Nathan Carter leads the Spartans in rushing with 659 yards and 4 touchdowns. Carter only averaging 4.2 yards per attempt. Suffice to say, this is a pretty limited offense that is not very dynamic at the skill positions. Michigan State is 109th nationally in scrimmage plays of 10-plus yards, and they're 120th in scrimmage plays of 20-plus yards. So not at all explosive, very limited.
CP, it just makes me...
Yeah. So give me a few thoughts.
Just listening to you read that off, man.
They're
coming into the Columbus 7:30 night game, like on the Peacock, and like, oh, great uniform.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, well, give me a few thoughts about when the Sparty has the ball against the Ohio State defense.
Well, obviously the defense, I mean, our defensive back, like, we've been wanting like that defensive backfield, like to like be like what we were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
and we are.
Round picks, like,
they are.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. And, we've been waiting on that. And, Sawyer has finally, like, I don't know what.
He's playing well.
But he's finally found his way into this defense where he's like not like, where's Waldo shit, and he's lost all over. Like, he's actually making tackles. He's in on, like, plays.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Tyleek Williams he's fantastic. Mike Hall. I mean, Cody Simon, like, step up. I still, like, I'm still, like, I don't know. I'm still wondering why Copper Chambers is still in there. I don't know.
Yeah, he's had a rough year.
There's something wrong with him mentally, or he's just not picking up. I don't know, but like, this defense it's nice, man. They got a swagger to them. I feel like,
yeah,
you know what I mean. Like it almost like, and I'm obviously not comparing this to whatsoever, but the Browns defense, they have a swagger about them. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You watch them and they all got something going. They're like, hey man, what's up? Like, shit, on the field, like moving their feet and shit. Like, I feel like we've got a little bit of that swagger.
Absolutely.
Nice, which we haven't had for a long time, man. Like a few years. And
2019.
Nice to see. And you got these young kids, like you alluded to earlier, stepping up when like Pronto's out, like, and they're they're stepping up to the challenge, and they're like producing, and it's refreshing. It's nice to see, not committing a lot of like penalties, like so. Yeah, I'm going to use it again. I'm excited about the defense.
Me too. Yeah, for me in this game, just play to your standard, Buckeyes. Smother this very limited Spartan offense, and let's get most of the starters to the bench by the start of the fourth quarter. No more injuries. Just get out of this game with no more injuries and take care of business. I'll be very happy. Okay, CP, let's get to our concernometer scores. I'm going to start with you. Give me your concernometer score for this game.
I mean, like, I don't know that I've ever, like, given less than a 2, but I probably have. But I'm going to go like a 1.25.
Okay, 1.25. I'm at a 2.
That's probably just being an asshole, but it's true.
No. I mean, I'm at a 2, and this is not an opponent that should give Ohio State
You're
any
at a
trouble.
2?
I'm at a 2.
I don't know that you've ever been at a 2 either.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Very rarely. I mean, this is not an opponent that should give Ohio State any trouble in the horseshoe, unless the Buckeyes aren't focused on the task at hand. I've been saying it since September that as fans, we have to accept that this team will usually need the better part of 3 or 4 quarters to put away most of their opponents, but I'll be very, very disappointed if that's the case in this game. This is an opponent, I mean, playing at home with your full arsenal of playmakers on offense, the Buckeyes should be able to put away by the middle of the third quarter, probably even before then. So concernometer at 2, you're at 1.25. Okay, let's get to our score predictions. Again, the line is Ohio State minus 31.5. The over-under is 47.5. Looks like temperatures are going to be in the mid to low 40s. Doesn't look like wind or rain are going to be a factor in this game.
Oh, it's going to be a 5-star day in Columbus on Saturday, man.
All right, CP, give me your score prediction for this game.
All right, well, I'm going both, like literally the trifecta. Uniforms, night game, cover, and we cover the spread, and it goes over. I'm going to say Ohio State 52, Michigan State 9.
52-9. I have it 42-9. Play to your standard, Buckeyes, and get out of this game as healthy as possible. I know I already said that, but that's really kind of our mantra, I think, for this game.
Right. I'd like to see the starters get out of there before the beginning of the fourth quarter. Get them out midway through the third quarter.
Absolutely.
Move on to next week.
And I'll be disappointed if that doesn't happen. If this has to be
I will too.
Right? I mean, come on, get these. You got to find a way to put this opponent away, and get your starters out by at least the start of the fourth quarter.
No way should they be remotely in this game, in midway through the second quarter.
One wouldn't think. Of course, right. The caveat always is, they're 18 to 21-year-old kids, but Ryan Day has been very good about handling his business in games like this. Yeah.
Right. Am I going to be on the suicide hotline if that's not the case? Probably not. But it is what it is, man. It's going to be a nice day in Columbus on Saturday. Some people coming in. I'm trying to make a decision if I'm going to go or not. I don't know, but.
All right.
Good to be on here with you today, Z. Yeah. I'm looking forward. I love where we are at this, in November, bro.
How can you not? You're undefeated. You're number 1 in the country. Okay, listen, we need to talk about the main event in the Big Ten this Saturday, and that is number 3 Michigan at number 10 Penn State. Now, the game itself is a pretty juicy matchup. A lot of to talk about there, but the intrigue of Michigan's sign stealing scandal on top of that. Oh my God! I mean, this is appointment television, to be sure, and of course it has major implications, both the Big Ten race and the college football playoff. The game is a noon Eastern kick on Fox. The line is Michigan minus 4.5. The over/under is 44.5. This game is going to feature the country's top 2 defenses, at least statistically. Michigan is number 1 in total defense in the country. Penn State is number 2. CP, who do you like in this game?
You know what? Yes, is Michigan have that flash and tick in their brain about all the bullshit that's in the press and the media? But I mean, I can't I would love to be able to say, hey, Penn State, but I just don't think Franklin's a closer, man. He's he's not a coffee drinker, and coffee's for closers, and I just don't think Franklin's in that, So I think it's gonna be tight, maybe until I think Michigan covers and obviously wins the game.
Okay, but I love the Glenn Ross
say,
reference.
Otherwise, but I don't think that's gonna happen. And then we could just put it all to rest, fuck the sign stealing shit. Penn State, I would love to just beat them this weekend, just get out and and then we just run over them in a few weeks.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you for the Glenn Ross reference there, man. That is 5-star. Yeah. In light of this sign stealing scandal, I don't know what about Michigan is real. I mean, Michigan's point differential
Right.
under Jim Harbaugh before Connor Stallions was hired was 15.8. Since Stallions joined the program, it's 28.1. And Michigan is 22-1 over that span. That is a 12-point increase in point differential. That's basically a 2-touchdown improvement. Now, I do believe Michigan has good football players. They absolutely do. J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum, Roman Wilson, Mason Graham, Will Johnson. Those guys are all those guys are very good football players. But if you look at the 24/7 team talent composite, Michigan is all the way down at 14th. They aren't anywhere close to Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State territory in pure talent. In fact, Notre Dame and Penn State rank ahead of Michigan in the team talent composite. Penn State is only one spot ahead.
Wow, that's why I love
Michigan.
That shit I didn't have a clue about, but that's interesting, man.
It is. So, I mean, Michigan has been, how has Michigan been that dominant? 22-1 over the last 2+ seasons, outscoring their opponents by an average margin of 4 touchdowns with a roster that isn't anywhere close to Bama, Georgia, Ohio State territory. Michigan has 2 5-stars on their roster, 2. Ohio State, by comparison, has 10. Alabama has 18. Georgia has 13. Now, we know why Michigan has been able to outperform their player rankings by such a wide margin. I mean, they've been fucking cheating.
That's crazy.
So, the big question for this game, has Penn State done what it needs to do to neutralize any advantage Michigan might have from the impermissible advanced scouting Scallions did before he resigned? And if they did, then I think this is a fair fight between 2 pretty evenly matched teams in terms of pure talent, and Penn State's playing at home. I mean, I think that's worth something. But like you, CP, I come back to James Franklin and his dismal record against the top 10. I mean, I don't have any faith in him, and I can't say that I trust Drew Aller right now either. Aller is probably a year away at least from reaching his full potential. Now, I think this is a very, very close game. I think Penn State's defense, I think their running game, I think the home crowd, I think it keeps them right there. But I think J.J. McCarthy's the difference. I think Michigan finds a way and wins it by a hair. And, of course, that'll leave us all wondering if this win was legitimate, right? Anyway, go ahead, CP.
Right. I mean, I wish, I know, it's all money grab. But, this game should be, this should be a night game. And, Happy Valley, whiteout, this and that. But, obviously, Fox has got to get that big noon grab shit, whatever.
It is,
but
yeah.
What I wanted to say to you, did you see any of the fluff that Corum has got multiple, I don't know, if it's 2 or 6 or whatever, but LLCs with this
with Stallions,
that kid Connor.
I saw a little bit about that.
that.
I did not have time to kind of dig into it and read about it. I don't know what that's about.
I didn't really either. I didn't know if you knew about it, but it's interesting. Who knows if that's just fluff as well? But there's I heard there's some legs to this is crazy.
Well, I mean,
what's gonna happen?
At the very least, what that to me suggests is that Stallions wasn't this unknown, staffer that nobody paid attention to, right? Which is total bullshit. Clearly, he was playing a key role in how things were unfolding for Michigan these last 2.5 seasons. And the fact that, one of their star players has an LLC with him or is in business with him certainly would refute this idea that, that Stallions was this kind of lone wolf kind of, staffer that didn't play a big role, right? It's total bullshit.
I mean, I think regardless of what happened, coming out, Harbaugh's definitely gone. You know what I mean?
We'll see. I have no idea how the Big Ten is going to rule on this one. They're being very deliberate. They're taking their time, which I think is probably a good policy given how litigious Michigan promises to be over this. I have no idea how this is going to unfold. I really don't.
Right. I really want him to be there, in November. You know what I mean? I want him, Harbaugh to be there. I feel kudos to Ryan Day too. And I know we're wrapping up, but that guy, I feel he's just taking a lot of abuse about his past, this and that. But I feel there's a whole new new sheriff in town with RD. He's got kind of a chip on his shoulders. Fuck everybody else.
Well, let's go out and take care of business, right? Handle it on the field, right? I mean, that's the best thing Ohio State can do here, right?
All right.
Listen,
good to be on here with you, brother.
Good being on with you. That's a good night's work. Why don't we end things there? For our listeners, you can expect the usual game recap pod from me on Sunday morning. Then Paige, Chad and myself will be back with you next Thursday to preview the Minnesota game. Until then, thanks so much for listening, and go Bucks. You've been listening to the South Stands, a Buckeye football podcast. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and visit our website at southstandsosu.com.